But joining me now to talk about all of this, former Maryland governor and former presidential candidate Martin O'Malley. Governor, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Brett. Good to be with you.
We just saw Maryland put in their delegates for Hillary Clinton. Your thoughts after being through this process, after being a candidate, to be here, see this, and what it means?
Well, it's a historic night. I mean, I was honored to have been able to have been on that debate stage with Secretary Clinton and Senator Sanders. And tonight, there's just so many thoughts that go through my mind. I mean, I would not have offered my candidacy if I had not intended to win. But at the same time, I have enough perspective to appreciate what this means for my sons and daughters and little boys and girls throughout our country. To see a woman clinch the nomination of a major party is a really big deal for our country. And so I'm glad to be able to be here. And I'm going to work my tail off for Secretary Clinton. You know, we had our differences during the primaries, but they pale compared to the differences that we now offer the country with Hillary Clinton as our standard bearer and what Donald Trump has to offer.
You're exactly right. I mean, a lot of people are talking about that. No matter your ideology, it is a moment in history that this will happen in just a few states. What about this beginning to the convention and this kind of dust-up and the feeling between the Sanders folks and the Clinton folks that we're seeing play out a little bit today?
Yeah, well, you know, I reflect back. This is not the first convention I've attended, and I can remember people being very passionately committed to Reverend Jesse Jackson and the historic nature of his candidacy. I was here myself once on this floor for Gary Hart, who tapped the imagination of a lot of young people. So it's hard for people that come all the way across the country and come to the convention to all of a sudden pivot and change. But I think Senator Sanders has been a total gentleman throughout these final phases here, and I think that his supporters will come around to understanding that the primary's over. Secretary Clinton won. She got more votes. She also got more superdelegates. You put both of those together, that's why she's going to make history tonight.
Is it more, Governor, about voting against Donald Trump, the pitch, or voting for Hillary Clinton?
I think there's a couple of things you have to do at the same time. I believe that Donald Trump is one of the most unqualified people ever to be nominated by either party, and his vision is not in keeping with the party of Lincoln. So I think
yet he got the most votes of any Republican ever in a primary.
Yeah, and what was scary, Brett, was the more overtly racist and fascist his appeals, the more he clinched and sewed up the nomination among those that would go out to vote in the Republican Party. But it's not enough.
Calling those millions of people racist and sexist. And you're not calling all the people that
No, but I am saying that his appeals are. But I think it's not enough to simply disqualify the other candidate. You also have to offer a positive agenda for what you can do for people and to make your candidacy real around every family's kitchen table. And the key issue right now, and I think what gives Donald Trump's appeal some life, is that people are working harder and they have yet to see their wages go up, even though they hear that the economy's doing better. So this race is going to come down at the end of the day between two candidates that everyone is going to know more about than any candidate in history. And but it's going to come down to which of these two candidates will take the actions necessary to make my family's wages go up, to increase pay around my kitchen table.
Governor, you know I could play a ton of sound bites from the campaign and debates.
Hey, have at it. I did my best.
And debates where you challenged Secretary Clinton directly and had some real problems with how she stood on various elements. Through this campaign since then, since you got out and now to this moment, has she assuaged you of your concerns about climate change, about being too close to Wall Street, about the things that you brought up?
Yes. In fact, I mean, yes, to a great degree. I mean, first of all, I mean, Secretary Clinton and and Senator Sanders had disagreements like up in this range. The disagreements with Donald Trump go from floor to ceiling. But if you look at the Democratic Party's platform, the commitment to 100% renewable energy in our country by 2050, that was a result of this primary contest. There was movement on our party being very firmly against for-profit prisons. the wholesale internment of women and children and families in these growing immigration centers. Also, the commitments on economic issues, raising the minimum wage, and also to repeal the death penalty, something that's wasteful and that does not work. Those are all much more progressive things than were not in our party's platform the last time around that are there now. And I do believe that our party is stronger for having had this robust contest.
Democrats are focusing a lot on Donald Trump's tax returns and that he should release them. Back in April, you tweeted out this. Said this in 2012 about Mitt Romney's tax returns. I'll say it today. Hillary Clinton should release the Wall Street transcripts. In other words, the transcripts of her speeches. So should Hillary Clinton, in this general election, release those Wall Street speeches, and should Donald Trump release his tax returns?
Well, I think certainly more openness and more transparency is called for in every election. So the answer to the question is yes and yes. And with Donald Trump, it becomes even more complicating, Brett, because of the Russian involvement in this campaign now.
How do you know definitively that it is Russia?
Because, Brett, look, I come from the state of Maryland. You can't throw a dead cat in Maryland without hitting a cybersecurity company, and everyone knows this has all the fingerprints of the Russian government in hacking the DNC's mails.
And then are you making that next jump that Russia is somehow backing Donald Trump to collude with the Trump campaign to go after Hillary Clinton?
Yeah, I think the Russians absolutely.
Why wouldn't Russia go after Hillary Clinton's emails and bribe her over national security if she's going to be the next president?
I believe that the reason the Russians did this and the reason why they did it when they did it is because Donald Trump is the only candidate in modern times to advocate the U.S. pulling back from our NATO commitment. And in fact, the first head of NATO was actually Dwight Eisenhower, a proud Republican in the old vein of the Republican Party.
And it's definitive that Russia hacked the DNC emails if you listen to all the Democrats, and yet when you ask about the server for Hillary Clinton in her home, it's definitive that she was never hacked.
Yeah, look, the FBI looked into that, and I will defer to them on that investigation, which went on forever and ever. But this one's fresh, Brett. This one has not been looked into. And perhaps one of the reasons Donald Trump doesn't want to release his tax returns is because of the huge amount of Russian oligarch money that goes into his serial bankruptcy enterprises that he walks away from with great cash. You look at Paul Manafort, the man who's running his campaign, and the way that he was campaign manager for the former head of Ukraine. All of these connections. You look at the gentleman that spoke at the convention. Donald Trump is a lapdog for Putin. He openly admires his...
They push back hard on that. They push back very hard.
He openly gushes over the guy. It's like he has a bromance with Putin. He also says flattering things about other dictators as well.
Let me ask you finally this question about just last thing about the DNC emails, because they're still coming out, and we're hearing from WikiLeaks that there are going to be Hillary Clinton emails that come out in big numbers. Are you concerned about the substance of what's in there and this process?
Look, what concerns me far more is the Russian involvement in hacking the DNC.
But what about the concern what's written there?
Yeah, look, I don't think any of us doubted that these sort of conversations were going on in the DNC. I mean, that's all water over the dam.
That's the sad thing, right?
No, well, actually, the lack of debates actually helped Bernie Sanders because it made him the only obvious alternative in the absence of debates. So, but look, what the DNC was, all these sort of piddly-ante questions, the rules are never designed in such a way to encourage challengers or to help challengers. So that concerns me far less than the Russians breaking into the DNC like, like burglars did during Watergate. And I think, frankly, that Ronald Reagan would be rolling over in his grave to hear the sort of pro-Russian rhetoric coming out of Donald Trump. You know the one plank of their platform that they pushed back on? It was the plank having to do with weakening our commitment to sending any sort of arms or help to Ukraine.
Yeah,
why was that?
We'll see how the investigation goes here, and we'll follow every step of the way. Governor, we really appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you, Brett. Always good being with you, man.
Thank you very much.